Chiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Atelier Sophie 2, The Alchemist of the Mysterious Dream, released physically for PlayStation 4 and Switch on February 25th, 2022, published by Kai Tecmo and developed by Gust. I'm a pretty big fan of the Atelier series, which, yes, the proper way to say it would be Atelier, which is French for workshop, but it feels like the marketing in English I keep hearing is Atelier. Anyway, this is the 5th game of the franchise I've completed, including the first Sophie game, which released on PS4 in 2016. This is a direct sequel, picking up very nearly where the events of the first concluded, Sophie and her friend and mentor Plachta on a journey to help Sophie to become a top-tier alchemist and find a way to restore Plachta's soul to a human body instead of the doll she's walking around in. There's a brief summary video you can watch from the title screen giving you a story so far, if you're rusty. As Sophie and Plachta are exploring one day, a portal opens up taking them into a dream world where people are pulled in on a person-by-person basis when the resident goddess likes their dreams. In this dream world, time doesn't pass and the residents can stay there until they've achieved their own personal dreams. It's here Sophie meets a new group of friends and associates, including another alchemist, a couple of bodyguards, a merchant, and paradoxically, human Plachta herself. That's all the teaser I'll give and all the plot I'll spoil. In Atelier games, you play as an alchemist. In this one, of course, the titular Sophie. You explore the world, which in this game is giant areas that are all connected via exits to one another, and can be instantly traveled to via fast travel at nearly any point. In addition to teleporting to area entrances the moment they're discovered, there are also a set of crystals within each map that can be traveled to once activated. Combat takes place with a party of 3 in turn-based style. You initiate combat with foes by running into them on the field. Now, one way Atelier games, in my opinion, have helped to stay fresh is by placing small variations on the combat system in each game. In Sophie, expansions to this keep occurring as you progress. For example, while you do have 3 party members in combat, you also end up gaining back row support with your additional characters at the ready. You can use them when someone's going to get attacked to switch them out with a guard support, where the new character in will take less damage than the other would have. You can also sub them in, with both characters using a special ability with a reduced MP cost. There is a resource in battle that regenerates and your substitution is dependent on it, which adds a small layer to your strategy, to use it to attack or to guard support. Also, if you initiate battle in the field by striking an enemy with Sophie's staff, you'll get a small starting boost to this resource. Additionally, one enemy in the encounter, and bosses, will gain a magical aura. This will be elementally specific, or magic or physical in general, that you'll have to work on using various abilities of your characters to wear it down more quickly. The final icing on the cake is the dual trigger moves. When your characters build friendships and you progress the side cutscene relationships enough, different pairs of characters will have a cutscene and talk about doing a unique combo move together. I've always had a soft spot for this type of thing in turn-based RPGs, dating back to Chrono Trigger. As with previous Atelier games, you also continue to make various items to use in combat for a wide array of elemental damages and status effects. There is a battle speed setting you can click at any time, taking the animations of combat up to 2 times normal speed, but it obviously still stops when it's your turn to do something. Once I found that, I did turn it up to double speed for most of the rest of the game. New character abilities and upgrades to those open from spending thresholds of ability points, which you start gaining quite a ways into the game. These points are pooled on a per character basis, gained from completing party quests that have a variety of completion parameters, and are also rewarded for discovering landmarks in each area. Each landmark discovered will give a specific character a few points to spend. Each character has a set of attributes that can be increased, including attack power, maximum HP, as well as some gathering benefits. Next we have the alchemy. Similar to how battle features small changes in Atelier games, alchemy does too. I've enjoyed Sophie's method in the past because they play a little more like a puzzle game. Every ingredient you gather and material you synthesize has a colored component grid of a various shape. Upon synthesis, you work to place these together on a board. The more you can get placed, the more the meters on the right-hand side fill, increasing the attributes of the end product as well as contributing to the end quality. The complexities grow from here with bonuses for matching the shining nodes you see, forming links, and as relationships form with your party, you'll get synthesis bonuses for the number of links you make, allowing you to transform the element of a node, and eventually being able to add additional materials to the synthesis. Catalysts also unlock adding additional rules to help you make higher-powered objects, but also take increased thought and effort to lay those pieces just right. Another new element in Sophie 2's alchemy is that you actually have 2 alchemists to work with, each with their separate unlockable recipe and alchemy level. Opening up new recipes requires having previous recipes in the tree open and then meeting requirements like synthesizing item X with Y trait, gathering a specific ingredient once the recipe is unlocked, or hunting a specific enemy. I emphasize once the recipe is unlocked because this did bring a tiny bit of annoyance in the way you gather items. Let me step back a bit and talk about that. When you're out in the field, you'll see a plant or a rock or a tree that can be gathered or harvested. You need and learn the recipes for tools to help you do so. A scythe, a pickaxe, and a fishing rod, for example. Your first sets of gear will likely only be quality enough to pull the first of 3 possible items from a node, which you'll see when you're near the object you want to harvest. Even though a rock at the beginning of a map and a rock at the end of the map may look the same though, they may not give the same item. Compound this with some weather changes that I'll go to here in a minute, and sometimes after playing through 20 different maps, it can be difficult, even a tad annoying, to remember where you got a specific item. So even though you have a monster feather, even though you gathered it, if you fell behind the curve and didn't have a recipe open the first time you obtained that specific item, you have to remember where you got it that one time and go back and get one again to proceed down the recipe chain. The game does aid you a bit with its wonderful guide. When looking at a recipe, you can click the touchpad to take you to related items, which can further direct you to a bestiary or item entry to show possible locations for the item. But this didn't seem to stipulate when you actually had access to that item at a particular place. For example, one of the first maps has an area you don't actually access until the end of the game, yet one of the items you can get in that restricted area will show up in the guide because it's up in that inaccessible place. So you'll spend time walking around the map trying to find it when it may not even be there. Recipes are also barred between alchemists, so if you haven't unlocked one of Plachta's recipes required for Sophie's unlock, you'll be barred there as well. Really, all of this isn't a massive barrier or showstopper, but does add some time, as I kind of found myself playing this game in like a various mode at any given time. I had a progress the story mode, where I just worked to get to the next objective, be it boss or cutscene. The destination is presented on the world map, and if you haven't been to that area you need to go, doors on the map will be highlighted blue to steer you in the proper direction. I had a gather all items on a map mode, where I just go from node to node and pick things up, trying to get everything in a single area. I had a clear side cutscene mode, where icons appear on the map selection whenever there's a possible story event you could trigger, and I would just go through these as they popped up. I had a make things mode, where I'd literally just spend an hour or two performing various alchemy to get new weapons or items, and also recipe unlocks, which then led to a gather specific resource mode, where I'd have a grocery list that I'd go and try to find particular things needed for the alchemy progression. And finally had the knock out some side quests mode. The main form of side quests in this game is a task list presented by Katie in the Crystal Sparkle Pavilion. She'll give you a list of tasks that refreshes daily, with a handful of assignments in varying difficulties. As you complete tasks, the reputation meter for your current adventurer class will fill, but the quest to progress to the next adventurer class seem to be locked behind main story progression. Each class gives you access to more difficult tasks, and these things include hunting down a certain number of specific monsters, turning in requested ingredients, or synthesizing something, sometimes with specific attributes, quality levels, or traits. You'll be rewarded with money and sometimes items for completion. You'll find a few shops in the hub town with limited items that once purchased are gone, and daily items that rotate with each vendor. There's also a character named Perkle that has an emporium where you can buy things, and eventually unlock the ability to duplicate synthesized items for a price. So, weather. Throughout the dreamworld, there are colored weather stones, that once you have the related item, you can change from sunny to rainy, for example. The change is more than atmospheric, as it will open up pathways to reach different areas of the map. If there's a ravine between you and your destination while sunny, changing to rainy can flood the ravine, bringing up things like barrels to skip across. Conversely, snowy weather may have ice barriers blocking your way, and a switch to sunny will remove them. You have to recharge these items via alchemy occasionally, but otherwise their use is infinite. As mentioned, this can change the type of materials you can harvest in the area from the same looking harvest node, and it will also shift a lot of the present enemies on the map as well. I would say the ability to change the weather can provide a bit of navigational aggravation, as the game suffers from what I call the 3-foot wall problem. The game doesn't let you go down a very simple looking, non-lethal step to an area that looks like a logical way to go, simply because the game designed not to let you. So you'll have to keep an eye on your minimap sometimes to see where you can or can't go. The game does have a level 50 character cap for battle, which I hit a bit before opening the last couple areas, and in turn-based combat games, when you stop gaining experience for combat, it tends to kind of make me avoid battles altogether, which is always kind of a bummer. I also hit the material cap for the number you can store in the Atelier around that same time. The difference between components and materials, not just a quality level, makes sorting through and cleaning that supply very monotonous. One neat addition to gathering that makes this worse is the major gathering points. You'll find a glowing fish spot or a giant ore, and you play a minigame that's slightly different for each type, and you can add extra elemental components to a material of kinds that don't necessarily match what it is natively. So if you happen to have a lower quality, say 10 material, but you have 4 different components that are small with its links, you wouldn't just want to get rid of it based on the quality number. So wading through 10,000 ingredients like that is a pain, and you never know what you might need. There really aren't a whole lot of varying enemy models. The game does rely pretty heavily on palette swapping enemies a half dozen times each, and a lot of the core enemy types return from previous games. Graphically though, the game's style very much belongs in the franchise. The world is full of colorful environments and character designs are fun. The story, as most that deal with time traveling of sorts without facing its paradoxes, can be a little bit on the simplistic side, but overall is enjoyable. The various party members have a good amount of depth as you uncover their dreams and motivation and help them reach their goals. The game's soundtrack is comprised of fairly typical JRPG sounding tunes, none that particularly stick in my head afterward, but fit the game perfectly. Overall, Atelier Sophie 2 features enough changes to combat and alchemy systems to make the games feel unique enough. The game does feature turn-based combat, which I personally enjoy and miss in mainstream JRPGs, though I know not everyone agrees. Lots of alchemy recipes to unlock, even if the progression barriers can get a bit frustrating to keep up with at times. Tons of materials, a great linkable reference guide for them, repeatable side quests, a diverse cast of characters, a very helpful fast travel system, and colorful world, although in retrospect it did feel kind of small. There's a character level cap that felt like it came a bit too early, a material storage cap that got a little monotonous to maintain, and the enemies could have used a little more variety. Rated as a turn-based role-playing game, Atelier Sophie 2 The Alchemist of the Mysterious Dream receives a 77 out of 100 on my true 0 to 100 scale, where 50 is an average game. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.